Yeah, as long as I say we need a moment. Usually.
Hey, up here.
We're back on.
Are we ready now?
We're ready in Springfield.
Okay, now that we're back in open session, roll call, please, Mrs. Calvin.
Ms. Bellercroft,
Yes.
Ms. Cray,
Yes.
Ms. Genovese, Ms. McCrory,
Yeah.
Ms. McCrory,
Yes.
Mr. Turbin.
Yeah.
Mr. Brett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue,
Yeah.
Chair Watson.
Yes. Is there a motion and a second to recite board action taken during the closed preliminary hearing?
Chair Watson, if I could intervene quickly, there is no action taken in closed session. There was a straw poll vote. So now the board needs to take a formal vote. If you'd like, I can suggest some language for that motion since it's long and complicated.
You may.
So, thank you. So is there a motion to find that all claims against Friends of Frank Lesko alleging violations of sections 9-1.15, 9-6, 9-8, 9-8.5, 9-8.6, 9-10, and 9-28.5 were filed on justifiable grounds and should be sent to public hearing, and that the claims against the Sangamon County Evening Republican Club 2 were filed on justifiable grounds and should proceed to public hearing, those being violations of sections 9-8.6C and section 9-10. And finally, that all remaining claims against the Sangamon County Evening Republican Club were not filed on justifiable grounds and should be dismissed. Good.
Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch who.
Brett.
You made the
Roll
motion.
call on the motion, please.
Ms. Bellercroft,
Yes.
Ms. Cray,
Yes.
Ms. Genovese,
Yes.
Ms. McCrory,
Yeah.
Mr. Turbin,
Yes.
Mr. Brett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue,
Yeah.
Chair Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Is there anything further in section 2A, Madam General Counsel?
Nothing for me. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Moving on to number 3, report of the executive director, please.
Okay, good morning. My report will probably be pretty brief today, which maybe you appreciate after our long campaign disclosure. So just essentially, the first item is a 2025 consolidated elections update. I do want to remind the board there is a consolidated primary. It is not held for all jurisdictions. Limited jurisdictions are holding a primary next week. We will have staff available though to provide coverage, to answer any questions, provide support to the election authorities, vendors, and field any inquiries from the public. But the first item on my agenda for the consolidated election that's upcoming is a voting system pre-election testing memo. A memo has been provided to the board from Erica Christel, voting system and testing team lead. This is just an informational memo for the board outlining the jurisdictions that have been selected ahead of the consolidated election for testing. And a reminder within the memo that the board may select as many jurisdictions for testing as the board deems advisable in the interest of the election process of this state. Prior to any regular election, jurisdictions are selected utilizing established criteria, including but not limited to length of time since previously tested, system issues that may have been encountered during the preceding 12 months, newly certified or modified systems, number of precincts within each jurisdiction, and vendor support. This cycle, the following jurisdictions have been selected for testing: Douglas, Edgar, Fulton, Hancock, and Jefferson. And I just always like to note whether any of these jurisdictions are being selected because issues were encountered or tabulation concerns were noted. None of these jurisdictions are being selected on that basis for this testing cycle. If there's no questions, I'll move on to the next item, which is a brief legislative update. A listing of all election-related bills has been included. I did want to thank Brian Pryor and Heidi Boyer for compiling this list. There's a lot of election-related bills this cycle, and the deadline was only recently, so they pulled this together to have for your review. Staff are tracking these bills, reviewing and providing an analysis on them, as well as fielding and responding to any just general assembly requests for information or review. As these bills move and we track them, again, if we encounter concerns, we will advise the subcommittee as well as the full board. We will also let you know if there's anything that comes of this session that would maybe require a board position. It is not typical, and we have not done so in recent sessions, but we will keep the board advised of any of those matters. And then as for the board's agenda, bills have been introduced in both the House and Senate with bipartisan sponsorship. And finally, the agency ISLs have been finalized and will be filed this week. The budget address is this afternoon, I think, in about a half hour. So following that, we will file the ISLs, and copies will also be sent to all members today. Brian Pryor is available in Springfield to provide any further information and also to field any questions if any board members have questions on the legislative activities.
You may proceed.
And so, yeah, the remaining items, voter registration activity, grant funding update, FY25 fiscal status reports, and the 2-year plan of staff activity for months of February and March are all informational. We're happy to address any questions at this time, but otherwise we're really preparing for the consolidated election that's upcoming. And
Member
I see, yeah, Member Craig has the question.
Really quickly on the budget, on page 226. I see that under administrative services and elections operations, we have not spent a lot of our money. There are, I believe, 4 months left, plus the lax period, of course. But I just wondered, do we have plans? Because this is over $3 million. Do we have plans for this money? And if so, I don't expect you to give me the list right now, but if you could provide it to the board, that would be what you plan on spending that money.
Yeah, sure. We can detail that if you would like in a separate memo to the board. We do have plans. Some of them are contingent on different procurement, as well as some of the money that was maybe earmarked for facilities there was a little bit of a question as to whether we were meeting in the Springfield location as well. So we have some projects that once we have heard that we are likely to stay there, we are to expend some of that funding for that facility as well. So there are all plans for the money. It's just whether we were able to pull the trigger or also where the procurement is with it. But happy to detail that and get it all outlined to you.
Is there anything further? Does that conclude your report, Madam Executive Director?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Moving on to number 4, is there other business? Now, number 5, comments from the general public. Number 6, is there a motion and a second to move into executive session for the
So moved.
purpose of discussing the minutes of the January 22nd executive session meeting and pending litigation pursuant to section 2C11 and 2C21 of the Open Meetings Act, Article 5, ILCS 120.
Second.
We have a
Sorry.
motion and a second, is that correct?
Yeah, thank you.
There is a motion and a second, is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Calvin, to move
Ms.
into
Ballacroft?
executive session.
Yes.
Ms. Cray,
Yeah.
Mr. Nevesi,
Yes.
Ms. McCrory,
Yes.
Mr. Turbin,
Yes.
Mr. Brett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue,
Yeah.
Chair Watson,
Yes.
motion passes. Okay.
Can we verify that the room is clear?